Okay, this is gonna be after action report for the tank run that I did with Orks on the 26th of December. So, for those who don't know, in recon support, what we do is after every major operation, we do an after action report. Basically, we have a look at all the important things that happened and identify what are the things that went right and what are the things that went wrong. Um, it's a tool we use to learn basically to get better at the game. Not a lot of people do this, but in my regiment, that's part of our culture that we do. So this video is for two different set of audiences really. It's for the orc fellas that I played with that are interested in learning something. Granted, this video is going to be like probably half an hour long or something, so not everybody sticks around for it. But it's here anyway. And the other audience is for my recon support guys, which definitely are going to watch it because they have to. So, yeah. Now, this tank run was a spontaneous kind of thing. Now, I had played two other tank runs with these fellas here who are from the Orc Regiment. I played the two previous tank runs in the last 3 days or so. So, context here. The very first tank run that I took part with, things things didn't go that well. It was hybrid from mid that introduced me into this group, and I just entered the Discord and hopped along for the ride. For the very first tank run, what happened was that I ended up taking command of the armor element, which was two tanks. Reason why was as we were setting up, I realized that most of the guys, let's just say, weren't that experienced with what was going on because we were about to go. We were loading up with the fuel and the ammo, but nobody had gas masks, filters, or BMATs, which is kind of concerning for myself, and other veterans. So uh, what happened there was you have to understand, and this is more for the recon support guys. If you ever end up playing with another group who is inexperienced, you have to make sure you don't overstep your authority and make sure that you understand what your place is in the group, right? So in that very first tank run, it was obvious that everybody wasn't that experienced. Nobody was good at spotting or commanding like an armor unit like that because I had done many runs and I've played on all three servers before Baker got shut down, and I played with a lot of veterans, so I knew generally what had to be done. But what's important to keep in mind is that the equipment they're using, whether it's the tanks or any other kind of weapon that they've manufactured, they're not yours, right? So you have to keep in mind that all the equipment that you're using is not yours. All the men that you're going to be helping out, the entire group, they're not your guys either. You're the guest there, so act properly, right? Don't try to overstep anybody's authority and be extremely careful with their stuff. Because if somebody came over to recon support and tried to, play with us, I mean, yeah, of course you can. And if they were more experienced, then we definitely want to know what they know, and we want their help. But you just make sure that you take care of their stuff and treat it with a lot more respect, basically. So that's what I did for the first tank run. Basically, I asked the orc fellas that were there what it is that they wanted to do, how they wanted to do it, and once that has been set, I then try to help them achieve that objective. That's what our job is as the recon support guys. If we're more experienced and we go to other regiments, that's what we're supposed to do. We're just there to help them, all right? If the plan isn't completely crazy, then you don't say anything, all right? So long as it's not a catastrophically bad plan, you don't need to say anything. You don't try to say, oh no, that's a terrible idea. We should go do something else. So as long as it's not that, don't say anything. Just go with it and try to help them out as best you can. After the entire thing is over, if they want to discuss what went wrong, then you discuss, right? But in the middle of the operation, as you're preparing or planning, don't do that, right? Don't don't try to derail what it is that they want to do because it's their equipment, it's their group. They want to have fun and do their things. That's what you do. You just go there, help them, all right? So that very first tank run, that's what I did. I just made sure I understood what it is that they wanted to do, what it is they wanted to achieve, and I helped them out. And we actually did get a very good tank run for like the first 10 minutes or so. After which, our inexperience got the better of us. It's not to say that any of us are bad. It's just that when you're doing armor operations, you have to work as a team. And you can't just put 3 random guys in a tank and expect them to be like an ace tank crew. That's not how it works. And it also doesn't work when you have multiple tank crews. All right, if you're operating a whole unit of multiple tanks, you gotta make sure that everybody that's playing in that unit sort of understands what it is we're trying to achieve, and that they sort of have like training basically. Now, I'm not really a big advocate of like having like soul training sessions, like you put out a set time and date where everybody has to show up, and then you have to like give them tags and whatnot. I know that from experience because of all the other regiments I played with on Able. That's what they do. I'm not a big fan of that because it's very long, very tedious, and most of the time, some of the things you teach aren't that practical. If you want to learn, you got to go trial by fire, and if you get burned, well, deal with it. But you will learn all the important things right there and then. And yeah, so right here, for the most part, as I took part in all 3 ops, it was my understanding that we're probably not going to succeed, make a lot of success. We're probably not going to like win very big gains, but we're going to get a lot of experience. I'm going to learn about these guys and how they operate. And hopefully, if everyone's still interested in the game, we can get better and do more complex things. So that's what actually has happened. Now, the first 2 tank runs, as I said, didn't go too well. We didn't quite understand what it is we were trying to achieve in the 2 previous tank runs. The very first one, as I said, I took command over the element, and we got a very good strike at the beginning, after which our inexperience got us as we decided to take engagements that were not in our favor. The very last engagement that we took part was involving us against 3 Warden vehicles. It was a 2-on-3, so we were outnumbered. The Wardens had an infantry advantage. The infantry support was much closer, and they were much more well organized, and they had the high ground. That right there is an engagement that we should not have taken. And it was an engagement that I didn't want to take, but we were sort of like kind of overconfident after the very first run that we hit, when we got a good strike in the flank where we took out 3 tanks without taking any damage in return. And we ended up getting to that engagement and we got slaughtered. So that's what happened in the first tank run. The second tank run involved me and Jeff for the most part. I think Glitch was there as well. We were following Bar Tank from Holler. And I don't know what was going on there because none of it made sense. Everyone sort of like kept switching what the objectives were and where we were going and what we were supposed to do. And we ended up just being in a bunker base getting shelled by 6 120s for 2 hours, basically, which wasn't fun, and we didn't achieve anything really except get slaughtered. So those were the two operations that I had with these guys prior. And this is the context I'm trying to set up here as to what happened here, which is very impressive, which is the reason why I'm doing this specific after action report, is that all the guys here in the last 3 days or so have like learned a lot. I mean, this game has a very steep learning curve, and everybody here has improved massively. So I just want to cover like what everybody here has managed to develop and learn so far, and what else needs to be done to improve beyond that. So yeah, that's the whole point of the after action report, and that's the context of this specific group that I'm operating with. Now, 2 things that were going through my mind at this point was Moondog here. As we were setting up, he's officer cadet, so I'm assuming this guy pretty well experienced. He knows what's going down. As the battle develops, it becomes clear to me that he is not very experienced tanking. Probably he's more experienced in a lot of other things like bunker building or artillery. I don't know, right? Because I've never played with this guy. I'm just going off the tag here, which the point here I'm making is you shouldn't try to make too many assumptions about people. So that was my mistake here. I should have kept an eye out, because once you identify someone that's inexperienced, right, and this is more for the recon support guys, but also anybody else that's interested in learning from here. If you're playing with an inexperienced guy, you have to make sure that you have to be patient, right? He's just ignorant, which means all you need to do is teach him. All right. If he's incompetent, that's an entirely different story. But the benefit of the doubt, and I always do this, if you don't know something, and it's my job then to teach you. And if things goes wrong and I don't teach you well, then it's my fault, basically. So this is what goes on here, that Moondog is going to have a 3-hour long tank op in which he's going to learn everything in one go. And Jeff here, he's kind of impatient and kind of eccentric, and he gets a lot of flack by Moon. You're going to see that in a couple of the clips that I'm going to review here. But yeah, that's something you have to keep out. If he's inexperienced or ignorant, it's now your job to teach him. All right, scolding people doesn't get anybody anywhere. It just makes you angry, makes him angry, and nobody learns anything from it. So that's one thing that at this point in the clip, which we're about 7 minutes in, that's one thing going through my mind. The other thing was Ramirez here. I'm not too sure who he is, but I'm assuming he's the commander of the regiment. This is the first time that I'm playing with him. So going off the 2 previous ops which I talked about, I'm not expecting much from this tank run because of how things went before. And for what Jeff has told me about the regiment, these guys just here to, have a good time, which nothing wrong with that. But Ramirez here, as the battle goes on, he definitely is one of the better tank commanders in this game. And that's from my experience from all 3 servers and a lot of veteran regiments as well. He does things in this battle here that not a lot of people are able to do. He's able to command effectively, lay out the objectives for both tank crews very clearly, and he knows how to. He has a very good game sense. Basically, he knows how to read the battlefield, and he has a very clear, sharp eye of what's going on, which very few people have the ability to do so. And yeah, that's what I learned out here, and this is what I'm thinking to myself as this is occurring right now. So the first clip that we're going to run through is the first engagement here. It's about 2 minutes long, and we take out 2 tanks, I believe. Let me run through this first then.
That's why you're the driver,
disrespect.
Okay, just before we continue, present me talking is the guy talking as the video is paused. The past me and whatever is going on is when the video is running, just so nobody's confused. Okay, we got a friendly light tank destroyer that's tracked to our east, coming towards us. They've got infantry chasing them. Yeah, go east.
Okay, yep, I'm turning around.
I've lost him in the bushes. Hold this here.
We did it. Well, I think he's right next.
Okay, direct east, crossing the road. Direct east, crossing the road. Up ahead, 60 meters.
A tank?
Start moving. Oh, it's a tank?
No. What? This tank?
Is that?
No. What is ahead of us 60 meters?
So right there is one of the biggest problems that you're going to see throughout the entire run here. And this has also been a slight problem in the previous tank runs that I took part with these guys. Communications are completely shot, right? So right there, I called out that there was a friendly light tank destroyer that was retreating in our direction. He was being chased by enemy infantry. So that's what I identified there as the threat and the contact. Then I give out the direction and range. So this is basically crash course in forward reconnaissance or spotting for tanks or just being spotter in general. What you need to do as the spotter or the recon guy is just provide the information as clear and concise as you possibly can so that nobody gets confused. That's what your job is. Now, the problem with that is that this is assuming that everybody that's operating with you can hear and understand what you're saying, which doesn't happen here. So you're going to see me make a lot of calls, but either basically no one's able to understand what I'm saying basically. So right there, what you saw there, however, was another bigger problem was that people then start speculating. You can't afford to speculate in a chaotic situation, especially in a war game like this. Once you start speculating or like creating ghosts and phantoms that don't exist, things start going downhill really fast because everyone then starts panicking, right? Like right there, Moon asked about a tank, but the way that everyone was talking over each other at the time, the way I heard it was that he spotted the tank, and then Jeff said, "There's a tank somewhere," which then led to me saying like, "What? Where? How? What's going on?" Yeah, that happens quite a lot in this tank run, and we get lucky in the sense that there isn't really any real organized armor opposition that the Wardens are deploying in this area. For the most part, we get the drop on everybody and we murder everybody in the tank. Basically, the infantry they do a pretty good job. The Warden infantry I'm talking about here, but yeah. So right there, that was a very big problem. That needs to be worked on a little bit more.
Dude, why are you backing up? Yo, move up. Come on. We have a tank. They have rifles.
I've got contact on a squad. 5 Warden infantry up ahead.
Okay, keep on moving, Moon. I'm not in range. I'll tell you why I'm in range. I'll tell you why I'm in range. Keep on moving.
Move us up.
Guys.
Okay.
10 meters.
Jesse, let Merlin give me the commands. He's got
hold.
the
Yeah, good kill. Advance 5 more meters.
I see all of them.
And then hold. You should be in range.
They're in the foxhole. They're in the foxhole. I see them.
There's a couple in the bushes.
Hold.
Back up 5 meters. Back up 5 meters. Okay. So right there. Crash course and tanking. The driver, as he's driving the tank, his situational awareness and the things that he can see is limited to his one screen. Alright? That's all he can see. Well, I can't show it here, but for those who have driven a tank, the driver can't see much. The gunner, on the other hand, he has the ability to aim. Now, you can do this as an infantryman as well. If you just have a secondary weapon or even like a hammer, if you just hold right-click and then move your cursor around, the camera actually pans backwards and you can see a much larger field of view. All right? That's what the gunner can see. Now, as the spotter, you have the ability to use the binoculars. Now, the binoculars has strengths and weaknesses as well. Unlike the ability to aim, in which the camera actually pans backwards and gives you a larger field of view, the binoculars only lets you shift your one screen up to 100 meters in any direction. All right? There's a difference between these two. The situational awareness in the immediate surrounding of a gunner is much more superior than the guy with the binos, because as you can see here, at this point in time, as I'm shifting my bino screen to the front, I can't see what's going on with the tank. What's happening in the immediate vicinity of the tank and my player character, I don't know what the hell is going on. All right. The gunner, on the other hand, he has the best awareness about what is happening in the immediate surrounding. Now, the problem here that occurs is most likely because, I should mention that in all my after action reports, I just do the report from my point of view as I recollect it at the time as it was happening. I don't discuss with anybody else that took part with it. The reason why is because it's a very good kind of like learning tool and learning experience. If you try to get your thoughts out as it happened and as you recollect it, and then afterwards you discuss with other people their versions of the events, and that way you begin to piece together what actually happened. If you try to talk with somebody before you actually do the whole report, you then start second guessing yourself, which is not good, because you might be right on something basically, and the other guy might have gotten something wrong. And it's only afterwards, once you get more people in, then you start building up the picture. Then you get a better idea of what actually happened and what went right, what went wrong. Okay, so I digress though. So going back to the situational awareness with the tank. Problem here is that I'm pretty sure Moon doesn't quite understand what the ranges are for all the weapons that are going on here. I don't blame him, because as we go up against the bunker base that you're going to see that's right in front of us, I actually don't even know what the range are of the emplaced AT guns. What I found out now is that they're 45 meters, but I start panicking a little bit up ahead. So there's that. That's a mistake that I made. But basically, the hatchet range of the gun is 40 meters, right? So I gave out the distance of 60. So what we need to do is get the tank moved up 20 meters. Now, this is assuming that Moon and Jeff both have a good sort of like ability to guess the range in the game, which is an important skill. Without the binos, you're not going to be able to see what I'm seeing on the screen here, which is the exact distance. You can't see that if you're playing any other type of role in the game, like infantryman or the driver. The tank gunner can see the max range, which is 40 meters. So if he extends his range out, that white line you see that's aiming, once it stops, now he knows the exact distance of 40 meters. But beyond that, he's not going to be able to judge the well, he can judge, but he's not going to know the exact distance of measurement between 40 and above 40. So this is a skill you're going to have to learn, basically. And the best way to learn is just to walk around with binos a lot of times. And just point at things and try to guess what the distance is, and then double check by pointing the binos at them. So yeah, the problem here is that Moon, I'm pretty sure, doesn't quite understand, doesn't quite know, he can't judge what the distances are. So every time I'm giving him directions to move front, back, forward, like 5, 10, 15 meters, he doesn't quite know. He either overextends or hits short. He drives up short, basically, which is something that we're going to have to work on. But yeah, the range on the hatchet 40 mil is 40 meters. And I'm here with the binos, and I can tell what the exact distance is. They can't, so I'm going to have to try to direct them a little bit, try to give them a bit of guidance as to how far forward, how far back we need to go. And you're going to see this happen a lot more in the rest of the other clips that I'm going to review here. But yeah, this is what's going on right here. And yeah, you're going to see other things happen.
Got one. He hopped out of the foxhole.
Right,
Another one hopping
now
out of the
attacking
foxhole.
them. Okay, move us up 10 meters. Okay, hold us here.
Got another one.
Watch out for the guy in the bush. He's still there. Yeah, back us up.
Back us up.
Full reverse, full reverse.
Northeast,
Nice, good kill.
Northwest? Which?
Yeah,
Northwest. I'm like almost
Alright,
certain
hold
I
this
just
here.
heard a
Hold this here. So in a previous after action report, I mentioned this, but I have to mention it again because nobody's seen that previous after action report. I don't think so. When you're operating with multiple units, especially with tanks, you're gonna run into the problem where you have multiple people talking to other people all at the same time. So right there, you just heard Ramirez talking to Glitch, basically, about things that were going on behind us. And if you're inexperienced, probably like Moon, you probably get confused in the heat of the battle because there's like gunfire going off and there's like 6 different people talking at the same time. You're gonna get confused. I don't actually have a solution to this problem, to be honest. I guess if you just play long enough and you recognize people's voices, then you will just get a natural synergy with the tank crew and the other tank crews as you operate. I got no real answers to that, but that's something that everyone's going to have to keep in mind as you move on, because this becomes a problem later on. Now, what's happened here is that we've pushed up, we've knocked out the infantry in the trench, and as I switch back to the map view to check the map intel, this is something that I do sort of like a reflex now. Basically, as there's a lull in the battle, just open up the map and have a look, because map intel is very important. It's very, very helpful. What you don't want to do is you don't want to be a armchair general map reader kind of guy where you just look at the map and then tell people what to do. That also doesn't work. There's a compromise between the two, because in map intel, when you see dots and triangles, you don't know what they are. I mean, you can see a dot, but you don't know whether the guy's a medic or the guy's got a rocket launcher. If you see a vehicle pop up, you don't know whether it's a jeep. It could be a Silverhand, for all we know. Nobody knows. But in this point here, and this is what I do every time that I'm playing as a tank, or basically anytime I'm doing anything really, as long as there's a small lull in the battle, just open up the map and have a look. And this is what happens here. I spot this guy right here. And I'm kind of confused because I don't know where he came from. I mean, if he came from the north here, he must have walked through this watchtower, in which case either this is an abandoned vehicle of some kind that's moved in, or nobody saw him, which basically is what happened here. No one actually has seen this tank right here. This is a tank that we're about to find out. He just strolled in here from the northern road, and he's right behind us. He's in between me and Ramirez's tank. And Ramirez doesn't see it until later. I think Glitch actually is the first one that calls it out. I think Glitch or Moon, I'm not too sure. But as I pull out here and I see that, I'm kind of confused, because how did this guy get here? He's in the middle of 3 watchtowers and no one has spotted him. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull back my binos and have a look, and then, yeah, I'll let the tape roll. We'll wait for...
That's all Andre's saying.
Southwest enemy
vehicle
tank.
behind us.
Oh, behind us, contact! It's an enemy hatchet right behind us. Turn us around. Hit him. Nice, good hit.
It's track him. His turret's cracked.
Don't push further than that trench. Okay, nice, good. So I called out there enemy hatchet, enemy hatchet. That's important because even veteran players who play the game, usually when you see a friendly kind of vehicle, people just assume it's friendly. This happens a lot, especially in partisan runs, both against our guys or the enemy. I've seen it happen where Warden partisans go behind our lines, pick up vehicles, our vehicles, colonial vehicles, and they just drive around and nobody notices. It's something that does happen in the game. It's a very common occurrence. So here, I have to make sure everybody understands that this tank right here may look like a friendly tank, but it ain't friendly. And I think we get a little bit lucky because it looks like it was a one-man tank crew. The turret didn't turn at all, wasn't turning anywhere as he was coming up the road. And I think he was just lost basically because he just drove right into our flank from behind, from the north, and get behind us. Yeah, we catch a lucky break here. So the other thing that's going on here is that I'm telling Moon not to advance past the trench, which is to our left. So basically, I don't want him going further than this area right here, this part of the terrain. Why? Because we're overextending right now. We haven't cleared out the infantry. Our friendly infantry isn't in position to cover us, and the Warden bunker base is right in front of us, about 70 meters. They're coming in here and attacking. As you're gonna see, they're gonna be flanking around here on the right, especially through these foxholes, and they've got AT weapons. So it's important that we don't go beyond this. But let me roll the tape. Just kill him here and hold up.
Bro, you're rushing. What are you doing, Moon?
He's disabled.
Moon,
back up,
why
back
are
up,
you
Moon,
like
back
on
up,
him?
back up now, back up now, full reverse, full reverse.
Go.
Did you get him?
Get back.
So yeah. So Jeff here. Okay, I have to say this about Jeff. Jeff in the last 3 days has improved astronomically because what Moon is doing here is basically some of the mistakes that he was making like 3 days ago. But Jeff right now is like the grizzly old veteran. I don't know whether he consciously knows the things that he's doing, and by things that he's doing, I mean all the right things. Basically, he has a better understanding and awareness of how the tanks operate, what the strengths and weaknesses of the weapons are, and it's basically his personality is very eccentric. So you're gonna see this happening a lot, where he's just shouting at Moon for the most part. It's hilarious. But yeah, as you saw there, the call was right because all our friendly infantry that went up on the right sides did. All the guys that are alive on the left side, which is not the side that we want them on. And Moon here, as we can see from the inexperienced guy, he disabled the tank, which is very good. Basically, he's dead. But we don't want to stick around, all right? We don't want to stick around the side or at the front here because we're still in a frontline zone. The enemy is still in play. And if we had gone forward and overextended there, we could have been in trouble. In this specific scenario right here, it ended up only being one Warden infantry with AT nade of some kind. So we got a little bit lucky there, I suppose. But yeah, that's the reason why not to go past this trench. Some people probably say, well, probably Merlin, why didn't you just paint the picture properly? Well, I could have, but the time it takes for me to describe what is going on, describe it clearly and concisely, and the time it takes to relay to everybody that tactical information to make the play, it takes way too long, man. I mean, every now and then you're gonna have to do it, and there are a lot of times where trying to paint the full picture is important and it must be done, but this ain't one of those scenarios. Things are going way too fast, and one thing you have to keep in mind is I'm always keeping in mind in my back of my head is where Ramirez is, because trying to operate two tanks, the best way to do it is make sure that you're both close enough to support each other, which we're not. This right here is a risk that we're taking. It's a calculated risk where we are technically overextending, but we have the opportunity here to knock out a captured hatchet. And that's something that I want to take. And once that has been achieved, we don't want to take any more risk other than that, because then we're going to die. So yeah. Let me run it for another like 10 seconds.
Get back. I see them with the anti-tank grenade.
You gotta chill, my man.
Okay, hold this here. Full stop.
You
Full
are
stop.
like pushing up
Stop,
to his
stop,
side
stop,
like
stop,
you're trying to kiss him.
I'm trying to listen to Merlin here.
Yeah.
I cannot do that when
Okay.
I'm going.
So yeah, listening to Merlin is very important. Yes, you should always do that. So yeah, that's the first engagement. So and I think hopefully I've covered everything clearly as to how tank operates and what are the different roles and what they can and what they can't do. For the most part, combined arms is the name of the game. You have to understand what all the different weapon systems and how they interact with each other, how that works out. So let me continue on to this part here.
They're sending out suicide squads with sticky grenades. Watch the bushes.
Is this friendly? Can I assume this is friendly? Sorry.
Okay, so what do you guys want to do? You want to push Spitbox?
We need to alleviate the pressure from our friendly line, but there's
You know what you should probably do?
In between us and them. Oh, hey,
there's a gap in the rocks to our southeast. We can probably go through there.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
If we're gonna do that, we're gonna go off-road.
They probably have mines there, though.
Yep. I just took a look in these mines there.
Enemy vehicle on the map. It's way far back though.
Ooh, yeah.
We're gonna
go
just gonna have to line.
Going the road.
We'll cut back through friendly territory. We'll head back the way we came. Repair our armor. At least me and Glitch should. We got fucked up hitting that enemy tank.
Is it an outlaw?
So let me pause there. Oh yeah. Okay. Two things I have to discuss. Hopefully I don't forget the second one. The first one was repairing the armor of our tanks. That was a very good call. That's something I've never actually thought about. Way that I know some people have done it is that you're running a tank operation, but this is assuming that you've got a lot of manpower, which we don't have. Usually in a large operation, the frontline logi dudes, what the thing that they can do is that they can always bring up a fresh tank. So basically, any tanks that you operate in the front force, you have a reserve. So that when your tanks get shot up a lot, you immediately have a tank that you can use. And the logi guy takes the damaged tank back, refits and refuels it, and then brings it back. And that way you have a constant tank force that you can operate on the front line. What we do here is that every time it turns night, basically, we just go back to the garage, which is only 1 hex away, which is very convenient. We go back to the garage and the hex behind us, repair, refit, and refuel, and then come back. And that was a very, very good call. This is an excellent strategy, really, because we get to repair our armor, and as we operate for the 3-4 hours that we play in this tank run, that helps out a lot in the long term. It was a very, very good call. Now, the other thing that happened here is another example of miscommunication or lack of good communication. I think Glitch. It's either Glitch or Moon. I'm not too sure about the voices. Somebody just says, "Is that an outlaw?" That's not helpful, man. Speculation once again. And even if you do give out a contact, you gotta give us a general direction and range. Basically, there's 3 parts to every kind of call out. You need to have to tell us what it is, where it is, and how far away. Those are very important. But yeah, it is a small minor thing in this case here, and nothing bad really happens. But yeah, that happens. The point I'm showing this clip is I'm trying to illustrate what Ramirez does here, and he does it very well, does it right. And I'm also gonna try to inform my recon support guys if you're trying to assist another regiment what it is you should and shouldn't do. So I'll let it run for another 40 seconds here. What?
We only have about 8 or 9 more hours of daytime if you want to just wait. Just try to get as much as we can.
Who the hell are they shooting at?
I don't know, might have been false fire.
Switching the spotter.
Oh yeah, switching the spotter too. Oh wait.
I don't want to cut through this open territory. I'm not familiar enough with it to be cutting through it. Right now,
when did we get Lockheed?
Right now I'm looking for their watchtowers, seeing if they have any laying around.
So what's going on here is that we've regrouped, we've refitted, and we're trying to figure out a plan of action. Now, this was the problem that I identified in the context at the very beginning of the video, what you can, what you can't do with your tanks. So right here, we're only operating 2 lone hatchets, all right? And we've got pretty well crewed out crews. In my tank, I've got Moon driving, Jeff gunning, and I'm spotting. In the other tank, it's Ramirez gunning, with glitch driving. Ramirez is the commander here. I'm just the second guy to just help out, basically. I mean, I am commanding the second tank, so there is that. So as the okay, let's talk about what Ramirez does here. Ramirez, as I said at the beginning, has a very good game sense about what's going on. He can read the battlefield, and he knows the strengths and weaknesses of what's going on here. We don't have any dedicated infantry support, and we don't have any artillery, which means at nighttime, without mortars, we don't have consistent flares. We shouldn't be operating at night. It doesn't mean you can't. The other thing that you can do is have as I said, the dedicated infantry. If you have good infantry that knows how to work with armor, you can operate day and night, and you can operate in a lot more close, tight combat situations. Now, we don't have that, and Ramirez here understands that very, very well and very perfectly. If you're going to operate just lone tanks like this, especially hatchets, your best strengths are your speed and your mobility. You have the ability to maneuver free from any kind of like tethers. You don't need to wait for infantry to catch up because we don't have any. And you're not restricted to fighting on one flank, which is a mistake that everybody I know who plays this game makes. And this isn't just the inexperienced guys. There are a bunch of regiments I played with. They are veterans for like 4 or 5 years. They insist on taking the enemy head on when the flank is completely open. And there's no reason why the flank shouldn't have been taken, basically. It's just that that's how it is. It's like a groupthink kind of mentality that goes on. And Ramirez here, he displays something that is very rare. So what we're going to do here is that we've engaged this battle from this flank, which is from the west. And what we're going to do is we're going to constantly switch from the west to the southeast side where our friendly forces are currently engaging. And this is the best way to play it. We're mobile, we're very fast, and we have a lot of firepower in the form of the 40 mils. We just need to complement that with having good vision, good situational awareness, which is where I come in. I got a spot. Ramirez does a very good job of spotting, even though he's in the gunner seat most of the time, but he switches in, switches out, uses his binos. Very good. And he's able to also, as we maneuver around, he's constantly scouting and having a look around the terrain as to how we want to operate. This is very, very good. It's all the mistakes that we made in the previous 2 tank runs with the other, or that I played with Orks in the previous 2 tank runs, where we didn't actually do that. I tried my best, but as I said, if you're operating with a friendly regiment, it's not your place to make the call like that. And here it illustrates what are the right steps to take if you're playing as the second in command or a subordinate. Basically, once the commander makes a decision, you just go with it. All right. Your job stops once he makes the final decision. Now, it is important that you give suggestions and provide options. That's what being a good teammate is. You want to make sure that all of the good options have been considered, and that the commander hasn't missed anything. You're here to help him, basically. Now, this part of the video here, and I'm going to discuss this more for the recon support, but if anybody here wants to learn a little bit about command and leadership, this is what I've learned so far. If you're playing as the second in command or the subordinate, it's your job to provide the options to the commander, but once the decision has been made, you just go with it. Don't second guess and don't try to argue. That's bad for 2 reasons. One, if you do that, you undermine authority, which then means command and control goes out the window. And command and control is very important in a war game like this because of the amount of chaos that occurs and the amount of people involved. This is a team game. You have to operate as a team if you want to have positive effects on the battlefield. The second reason is morale. When people start seeing others like argue, it doesn't do anybody any good really in the long run. In the immediate battle, usually this doesn't have a very bad effect. But I've seen this happen many times before in many other regiments, in many other wars. Once this kind of attitude occurs constantly in the battle, where there's somebody that's constantly arguing with the commander or arguing with his teammates, doesn't have to be somebody in the chain of command or something. A lot of regiments don't operate with command structures. But when there's constant arguing as to what to do, everybody, it just does not create a good environment and not a good culture, and regiments usually do end up disbanding as it occurs often. So any criticism or shit talking, if you want to do it, you should do it after the battle has occurred. That's the only thing that I I've got a say on that topic there, which is very important if you're trying to play the game long term. Yeah, that's something you have to keep in mind. So yeah, right here as I've illustrated, Ramirez is very good, able to read the battlefield very well, and yeah, my job here is just to help him figure out what's going on. And he makes a decision here that he wants to swing around to Lockheed, which I didn't quite agree with, because he was afraid there was going to be an ambush from the southern flank if we were to attack from direct south, which would have been much faster for us to maneuver around. But it is a little bit risky, and as we played out, there wasn't really an ambush that was being set up. The guys that were fighting, they're not competent and not very well organized. But that's a small thing here that to say I didn't say anything, right? As the battle progressed, there was another conversation that occurred later on where I tried to pitch the idea, but that's what you're supposed to do as the subordinate or the second in command or the teammate. Basically, you just provide the options. Say, this is a possibility, but once the decision is made, just go with it. And if anything bad happens, we talk about it after. Yeah.